did a little bit of heavy research, a tad of heavy research on this next group, coming in at number 25, up from 29 the previous week on my fantasy playlist of August 10th, 1985. Motels with Shame, a Lost 45, a fine record by them. Probably not commercial enough to be top 10, but it sure is nice to hear hear those Lost 45s every now and then. This might have been on heavy rotation on Night Tracks, WTBS's Night Tracks video show that ran late at night, Friday and Saturday night. It was the go-to place for me, late Friday and Saturday night between 11 to, well, I was working at a nightclub, a DJ at the nightclub back in the 80s, so I'd get home maybe about 1 in the morning or something like that and watch the videos until about 5 in the morning on Night Tracks. Brings back some memories. Watch this video on Night Tracks, Shame by the Motels. And the Motels, they go back. The first incarnation of the Motels formed back in 1971, which of course featured the lead singer Martha Davis. She's been in this band from the get-go for the most part, although she did leave the band and pursue a solo career. Released her first solo album in 1987, but the band was originally called the Warfield Foxes. This is the early 70s. They started in Berkeley, but to maybe get a little bit more recognition, possibly secure a record contract, they moved to Los Angeles, and they underwent a couple of name changes. There was Angels of Mercy, and there was the Motels. They changed themselves to the Motels, mid to late 70s, and they sent a demo. They made a demo, and they sent it to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers turned it down. And guess what happened? Capitol Records stepped in and offered the Motels a record contract. But they broke up. They disbanded. Musical differences between the group members. But later on, Martha Davis, along with a fellow named Jeff Gerard, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, 1978 they reformed the Motels. By 1979 they were playing Chinatown. They were playing in a nightclub or a club in Chinatown where they were developing a following, drawing lots of listeners, and they got a deal. They got a record contract with Capitol Records. They released their first album. It was self-titled, called The Motels. Their second album came out in 1980. It was called Careful. This album featured a song called Total Control, which went top 10 in Australia in 1980. But that was before they got big here in the States. And they had two really big hits. And, well, when the Motels reformed, I forgot to mention this, Martha Davis and Jeff Gerard, they had a lot of people audition, and the new lineup featured three new group members, and by 1981, they had another album ready. It was called Apocalypso. Popcalypso. It was slated to be released in November of 1981. But Capitol Records they passed on it. They refused to release it. They thought it was not commercial enough. As a matter of fact, they thought it was just too weird. Man, this new wave stuff, man, this is too weird. It's not top 40. Well, one of the group members left. Gerard was replaced by a guy named, his name was, Tim McGovern. Tim McGovern, he was Martha Davis's boyfriend. He played with the band for a couple of years, but he left in 1981, and they went back to the recording studio. They redid Apocalypso using session musicians, heavy on session musicians. And around the spring of 1982, Capitol Records released the album. The album was called All for One, and that was Only the Lonely. Came out, huge hit. And Take the L, does anybody remember Take the L? That was the follow-up to Only the Lonely, but Take the L did not make top 40. 1983, there was Little Robbers, which featured the scintillating Sunny Last Summer. Just thinking about the song, thinking about the melody of the song just gives me goosebumps. Sunny Last Summer. Some memories from the fall of 1983. It was a top 10. And that was their last top 10 hit. And their last album, well, not their last album, their fifth album, It was called Shock. Now they brought in another producer. His name was Richie Cito, C-I-T-O, like the last letter of the alphabet. Richie Cito, who later collaborated with Eddie Money with "Can't Hold Back." The album "Can't Hold Back," and re and co-produced the song "Take Me Home Tonight." Huge hit for Eddie Money and Ronnie Spector back in the fall of '86. But he produced the album Shock by the Motels. Shame was the first single off the album, but just didn't do as well as Only the Lonely and Suddenly Last Summer. Shame went to number 21 on Billboard's Hot 100. That's it. A classic Lost 45. There's still a few people who enjoy that single. It's a good one. Shame by the Motels at number 25 on my fancy playlist of August 10th, 1985.